In my last video, I spent 3 days learning how to make pixel art, except that's only one part of the puzzle. The other part is being able to take that drawing and animate it. To accomplish this, we're going to be learning the 12 principles of animation. Oh, and we only have 3 days to do it. The first principle we're going to be learning is anticipation. Anticipation is just the preparation for an action that is about to take place. In this reference animation, the person pulls back his arm to get ready to punch. I decided to go with something very simple that really is a good example of anticipation, a bow. And it's something. Man, this is gonna be a long 3 days. The next principle that we have is straight ahead and pose to pose. Now, straight ahead animation just means that you work from one frame to the next frame after it. Pose to pose, however, differs. Pose to pose makes you animate one key position and then the next key position and then fill in the frames between those two positions. The main difference is you want to use straight ahead when you're animating stuff that is not predictable, such as fire or lightning, and pose to pose when you know where something is going to end up. Now, I like the idea of lightning, so I ended up making a wizard, using straight ahead for the lightning and using pose to pose for the wizard's movement. In all honesty, I only have time for one more principle today, but we have 2 left. So I'm just gonna do a 2-for-1 special. The principle of squash and stretch is pretty simple. An object will get longer or flatter depending on how heavy, fast, or dense the object is. The last principle is staging. Staging can be a lot of things, but the main focus of it is whatever you are trying to portray to your audience should be remarkably clear. When done properly, staging should allow your audience to only focus on what you want them to. And this is my final animation for day 1. I learned a lot from yesterday. Mainly, animation takes a long time. So instead of doing 4 different principles in 4 separate animations, we're just going to do 4 principles spread across 2 animations. The first 2 today are follow through and overlapping action and slow in and slow out. Follow through and overlapping action simply states that if different parts of an object's body tend to move at different speeds. So even though the main part of this cloth stops, the rest of the cloth follows through afterwards. And the overlapping action is happening when the main parts of the cloth is moving forward, but the secondary parts of the cloth is falling behind. Now, slow in and slow out's a lot easier to explain for my small brain. In animation and in real life, things do not instantly reach a fast rate of speed. They have to accelerate and deaccelerate. A machine, however, would break this principle since they typically move at a constant rate of speed. And this is my animation. The principles of arcs are quite simple. Life doesn't move in a straight line and neither should animation. Most living things, including humans, move in a circular path called an arc. Timing is a little bit complicated. It has a lot to do with frames per second, spacing, and other things of numbers, but numbers are boring. So the dumbed down version of timing is the faster it's going, the less frames you have, and the slower it's going, the more frames you have. And for these 2, I made a man throwing a spear. Now, the first 2 principles of the final day are exaggeration and appeal. Now, exaggeration is kind of self-explanatory. If you were going to animate someone being punched, exaggerate it a little. Now, the principle of appeal is very simple. When animating anything, make sure it has a certain appeal that draws the audience to like it. Now, the animation I did was actually in celebration of us hitting 100 subs. So it's a good time to say, if you don't sub, I will kill a chicken every single day that passes. The final 2 principles are solid drawing and secondary action. So solid drawing basically means you have a good fundamental understanding of primitives and like 3D space and things that take years to learn. The principle of secondary action simply adds more depth to the main action. In this example, you have her trying to flee from what she just summoned as the primary action. The secondary action is her eyes and her facial expression when she tries to run away. This is my final animation.